Over the last 12 months, I've built a successful AI business from nothing with the same DIY, scrappy sort of tactics that I learned 22 years ago while I was sleeping on venue floors, putting up my own flyers, booking my own shows, that sort of thing, right? So with that, I want to share the principles that took me from zero, almost unemployable as a recovering addict, up the corporate ladder, all the way to where I am today, where I've bet entirely on myself and I've been able to build my own sustainable living online with AI. These are principles that literally anybody can take and use today. They don't require a university degree or anything. So with that, let's jump into it. Sit graphics, eh? So these are the hardcore punk business principles for AI. So when I was first starting, I feel like we all kind of go through the same sort of story arc, right? Where you're like enamored or like you fall in love with one of these AI gurus and they give you, their wisdom and it looks amazing, right? Like some of them even present it as like a magic button you press for passive income. And so you do what they say, right? And you go and you check out all the tools, you try these different strategies. And I don't know, I think a lot of folks fall short of the expectation that has been presented them, right? And I think it's not always because this person is lying, but there is a bit of survivability bias, okay? So like the person that is teaching you, either that information is dated or, they've used these tactics in a different scenario, right? Like these are the ways that they used to come up and they don't necessarily apply today, right? I went through this. I spent 3 to 6 months just spinning my tires, wondering why nothing was working for me. I was following the playbook. I was doing what I was told to do. And I realized that I had to get back to basics and adopt what I already knew to continue. This is what actually started to make me money, right? There was a disconnect between what I was hearing from them and then what actually worked for me, right? So I've broken this down into 6 principles. First one, which is the core of this entire ethos, is resourcefulness over resources, okay? The most important thing is being resourceful. You don't need to have deep pockets or a ton of resources, okay? So for example, when we were recording a demo, we didn't have money for studio time. So what we did have was a garage sale 4-track, and we recorded our demo with that, right? We didn't have fancy gear, but we made a record and we did the best that we could at the time, okay? So the same principle applies to AI. I built my first profitable AI solution with free trials or hobby plans, you know what I mean? So if you want to learn some of these platforms that people are asking you about, sign up for a free trial, find a tutorial on YouTube, and then click around and learn that platform, right? Like I learned Go High Level in a 30-day free trial, and I've turned that skill into profit, right? And it didn't cost me anything but my time in order to get to a workable, profitable knowledge of that platform. So one of my favorite quotes with this is, don't make do with what you have, bring chaos with everything you've got. And I think that's from Far Cry. I don't care, but it's fucking awesome because it's absolutely the way to go. Second principle is persistence. So for example, I was putting up flyers for shows, right? I knew that if I put up 200 flyers a day, I knew that maybe only 10 would survive, but it didn't matter because those 10 would reach some people, okay? So I took that exact same principle with my AI venture in that I was sending out messages. I applied for like 10 Upwork jobs every single day, and it honestly took a while. Like I think I applied for 160, was like 140, 160, I can't remember. It was one of those, a lot of different jobs before I got my first yes, right? And even that came from a no. And I just went and kept bothering them until I could find not bothering, but I kept in contact until I could find a solution where, it worked for both of us, right? All you have to do is outlast the average person and you will succeed. If you persist, you will win. Third principle is prioritizing action over perfection. So think of it like this. I would rehearse with my band for maybe 2 hours a week, 2 to 4 hours a week, and I would spend 40 on promotion, on, action. So I would like put out flyers, call venues, all that stuff. That took the majority of my time. It was maybe 20% preparation, 80% action. The application here is to stop obsessing over building the perfect thing and get in front of clients, get feedback and iterate quickly. Okay, so just ship it, then improve in that order. That's how you succeed. The fourth principle is community over competition. Okay, so this all comes down to the high tide raises all boats, right? The best gigs we ever got weren't from a booking agent or whatever. They were from other bands that we had helped, and they also help us when we're in town. Okay. So this comes down to both clients and peers. So if you find a community of people that you fit in with and that get what you're doing, you serve the absolute shit out of them and make sure that they are just overwhelmed with value so that they tell two friends and they tell two friends. The experience needs to be exceptional. And that comes directly from playing really obscure music that nobody really wanted to listen to. The few people that did show up, we wanted to make sure were super served, right? Super served the super fan. So again, if you find a community of peers, help each other out. Like, especially with adjacent offers or industries, like if people are doing something in the same space, but they're not doing your offer, give them a referral. They'll, you know what I mean? Like, work with each other. And this applies to potential clients in the same manner, where don't cold pitch, offer value first. Intent beats, shiny sales scripts 100 times out of 100. I don't know if you've ever been on a call where somebody just throws out a lot of like corporate wording, and it's really off-putting for me, at least, right? Like I was on a call and somebody was like, "Oh yeah, we'll just like index on that," or "Can we unpack that a little more?" And then I'm going to index on, and I'm like, "What? Who speaks like this?" You know what I mean? Like it was so obviously performance, and it was off-putting. I mean, and I know it's some people, it's their world, and all the power to them. The whole point of this is to like do your thing, but authenticity will beat your sales script 100 times out of 100. If you show true intent, you're going to get further ahead. You're going to get the deal. You're going to make sure that this person is heard. The fifth principle is authenticity over promise. That led really nicely. So I felt like an imposter for the first, like I said, 3 to 6 months, because I was doing all these things that other people did, like doing what they told me to do. I was working on anyway, you get the idea. I was trying to be them, and it didn't work, right? And I felt like an imposter because I didn't have a computer science degree, or I didn't go to university, I didn't have business or whatever. But what I did have was a background in logistics operations, okay? So I had experience that was directly applicable to what I'm doing now. What I did have was experience working on things and building from the ground up. And what I did have is a real passion for getting to know people, the DIY ethic, and just like, boots on the ground sort of work. Okay. So that was my superpower. My superpower is what is unique to me. And that comes from my experience in, again, obscure music, but it applies directly to the AI space as well. The second you're authentic and you're true to yourself, that's when things start to work for you and your connections become more natural and everything starts to click, is when you stop doing what you're supposed to do and start doing what comes natural. You still have to push, but you keep it within your wheelhouse. So the last thing is shifting your mindset with that in mind, right? Keep it in your wheelhouse, be authentic. And there were some days where I felt completely overwhelmed by business, and I still get that way, right? Like, it's kind of stressful sometimes where you don't have clients or whatever. There's always something that comes up that you're maybe a little bit nervous about. And I always come back to the basics, right? The universal business truth for me is the answer isn't more tools or a perfect strategy. It's just to go back to basics. And I bring myself back, and I'm just putting up flyers. You're just putting up flyers, man. You're just calling a venue, just boots on the ground, right? And any time I felt overwhelmed, I just kind of put myself in that position and framed it like that. And I felt better. It felt more natural. And I remembered that this is what the work looks like. You focus on connections and sales, and it all just kind of melts away, all the complexity of it, right? So just, tell me again, what are the 6 principles? DIY ethic is resourcefulness over resources. This is the primary part. If you take nothing away and you just remember resourcefulness is better than resources, I've done my job. Persistence, you just have to beat the other guy. You just have to outlast the average person, and you're going to win. Prioritize action over perfection, right? Remember, you're only practicing as a band for like 2 to 4 hours a week, whereas you're promoting the rest of the day. Remember to take a breath, go back to basics if you need. Build a community of like-minded people and clients. So super serve your super fan and have those people sing your praises through the hills or mountains or whatever. And make sure you embrace your superpower. Your weirdness is your strength. It's what makes you stand out, and it's what's going to make things click for you. Is when you embrace exactly who you are, everything's going to be a lot more natural. Okay. So I am building that sort of community. This is a soft sell. Holy crap. If you're interested in anything like that, any of this resonated with you, there's a free community I'm building on School. The link will be in the description. If it's not, send me an email. It's still a work in progress sort of thing. Where do you see these things going for you? If you wouldn't mind leaving a comment, I reply to every single one of them. If any of this struck a chord, I got more over here in this playlist. Otherwise, we'll see you in the next one. Thanks.